Hello, class. Instead of having Mr. Bustina just play a clip from my interview, I thought it'd be a little fun to make a video explaining how exactly I got to interview my subject, Mr. Lance Bangs, American filmmaker and artist. I was introduced to Lance's work at like 11 years old when I walked in on my two older brothers watching this. That's Jackass number 2, a film where Lance is credited as a camera operator and behind-the-scenes documentarian. His on-screen appearances in the Jackass movies is how I was most familiar with him, but in my research for this interview, I found out that his work expands far beyond Jackass, working with musical talents like Bjork, Death Cab for Cutie, Green Day, Nirvana, Slint, comedians like Mark Maron, Eric Andre, Hannibal Buress, and even news organizations like CNN and Vice. So, with his introduction out of the way, let me tell you about the interview right after I tell you the story of how I actually got the interview. So let me take you back to the far-off year of 2023. On October 1st, comedian Eric Andre announces the Eric Andre Explosion Tour on his social media, basically a live version of his Adult Swim series, The Eric Andre Show, of which I'm a huge fan. Tickets went live October 1st, and I blew $200 on 3 tickets that very day. Now, fast forward 2 months and 7 days, it's December 8th, right? I'm at the Terminal 5 venue in Manhattan, New York, high as fuck on adrenaline, ready for this wild show to start. Eric Andre's brand of humor is, how do I best describe this? Yeah. Andre has gone on record saying that Jackass was a huge inspiration for him. For those of you unaware, Jackass is a lot of pranks and stunts performed by Johnny Knoxville and his crew. Andre even got to work with Dick House and Paramount Pictures on 2022's Jackass Forever. This will be important later. Anyways, I'm waiting for the show to start. It starts, and I have the best night of my life. The show is insane. Food and mystery liquids are flying into the audience. Eric makes something of a McDonald's smoothie that's Coca-Cola, burgers, fries, nuggets, whatever, and he pours some into my mouth. Here's a video of me spitting some of it out. And unbeknownst to me, out of all the 20 shows that Eric did on this tour, it was only that New York City one that was filmed, eventually edited, and then released as Eric Andre Live Near Broadway. It aired on Adult Swim on January 18th and is now streaming on what used to be called HBO Max. So, I kind of show up in this comedy special. You don't believe me? Look, at 8.5 minutes, I literally get 15 seconds of fame.
That's a ghost pepper, Carolina, or fucking Reaper pepper hot sauce. Don't touch your eyes or your penis. I'm serious. It's really hot. No, it's like drinking pepper spray. I don't think that's making it better.
Okay, I fibbed. That's really only 12 seconds. The remaining 3 are during the credits. Yo, they put the Cartoon Network legal information on me? Alright, you gotta admit, that's dope as hell. Come on now. The point is, I made the special, right? This mug was on Adult Swim. You can see him now on HBO Max. And my stupid little hot sauce stunt has been immortalized, and for that, I am genuinely, eternally grateful. So it's the morning of January 20th. I had watched the special the night before, and in my excitement, seeing that I had made it, I took to Instagram to flex. So I made a post to my page, expand_angle, please follow me, and a post to my story. On that story post, I tagged Eric Andre, the guest he had on stage, Billy Porter, and the director of the special, Lance Bangs. So I had only found out that Lance directed the special the night before when I looked at the credits, and seeing as how I was already following him on Instagram because I knew him from Jackass, I threw him in there as well, tagged him. Just a dumb little 24-hour Instagram story, nothing much. Psych! It was more like a 26-hour Instagram story, because who other than Lance Bangs reposts my Instagram story on his. So now I'm ecstatic, right? Because this living legend who's worked with heroes of mine just reposted my Instagram story. So I sent him a direct message just to say thank you.
Lance! Ha! Dude, you're a legend, and it's an honor to have you repost my dumb little Instagram story. Ha! Thank you so much.
And that was that. Ah shit, I haven't started the interview project. So that realization hit me that day in class and I said, fuck it, let's shoot for the stars. You've messaged him once before, he acknowledges your existence. So I found his email, shot him a message asking him if he'd be willing to partake in an interview, and waited. Fuck, he hasn't responded and the shit is due today! Ah! With no response to my email, I went back to Instagram DMs during class on this day. I sent him all this, which basically is just a repeat of what I said in the email, asking him if he could join me for an interview. And during class, I was responded with a resounding, sure. I replied pretty soon after, but it took me 7 hours to hear. Look, just look at this play-by-play. Okay, so he agrees to the interview at 2:23 p.m., right? And then I send him these two messages asking what time works best for him at 3:02 and 3:04 p.m. respectively. Sure, I took 40 minutes to respond to him, but you must understand, I was overwhelmed. Anyways, about 5 hours go by with no response, so shamefully, I double text him. Do you know how it feels to double text a celebrity? Feels like this. Mr. Bangs, what time works best for you tomorrow? What I received were crickets for an hour, until finally he texted me back, telling me what time worked best for him. 2 p.m. Eastern. Mind you, I had asked Lance what time works best for him tomorrow, and in this text I had specified that I use Eastern Standard Time as to not create any confusion. So now, according to Lance, our interview is scheduled for Thursday, February 22nd at 2 p.m. Eastern. 15 minutes later, I sent him my number and say thank you. I'm excited to have landed an interview with him, sure, but now it's setting in. Shit, you don't know the first thing about this guy, and now you have an interview set with him tomorrow? Are you dumb? I may be stupid. So I head back to my room and start watching interviews, reading articles, and making a big mess of notes in my notebook, trying to come up with good questions and transitions and what have you. I stayed up until like 3:30 trying to cook, but my dish of questions was left out in the cold, my friends. You understand me? The next morning, I'm sleep deprived, caffeine driven. I spent that whole morning just zoning out of all of my classes so I can type up the best interview possible. It's 1:20 p.m. I just got out of my last class, and I sprint to the library, this very room I'm in right now, to set up right there. I'll turn the camera right there. Microphone at mouth height, laptop at face level. This setup is good. Remember, I'm the one who gave Lance my number, so I'm the one anticipating a call. It's 1:55 p.m. I'm a little nervous, but I'm ready. The clock strikes 2 p.m. and nothing. 2:05. Still nothing. By 2:12, I message him. Howdy, Lance. I'm ready when you are for the interview. To pass the time, I get on Super Mario 64. Defeated, but alert to see if he'd call or respond to my messages.
32,000 sand grains later, it's like an hour.
53 minutes later, still nothing. So now I sent him a message because I'm like, was there some sort of miscommunication? You can call me when you're ready. 15 minutes of despondency after that, I put my foot down. Mr. Bangs, if we can't get on this call in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to have to reschedule. I had other things to do that day, so I left the library basement, defeated. Having been stood up, I start thinking of other people to interview, but I take no action. Send no emails, write no messages, nothing. I think I was just planning on vibing until this assignment caught up to me and bit me in the ass. So jump ahead to the next day, it's Friday. I just got out of my last class, I'm chilling in my room playing Mario 64. I know I have work at 5, but it's 2 in the afternoon and I'm ignoring my responsibilities. At 2:16, I get a call from Oregon. It isn't Scam Likely, who loves calling me so much. So I pick up.
Hi, this is Lance.
On the outside, I had to go, "Hi, Lance, thanks for getting back to me." But up here, I was going, "You motherfucker, you dirty goddamn son of a bitch." But I kept my cool. I told him I'd call him back when I had everything set up, made a little makeshift studio in my room, called him back, and started what was to be a 45-minute interview. I know everything until this point has just been my silly little story, but I just thought that the domino effect lead up to me getting the interview was pretty cool. I buy tickets to a comedy show, go to the comedy show and put hot sauce in my eye. My little stunt makes the final cut of a special that's aired on TV and put on streaming. I repost the clips with me and them on Instagram and tag Lance. Lance reposts my story. I message Lance, so now he knows that I exist. Then I message him a couple weeks later asking him if he'd agree to an interview. He agrees, he stands me up, and then calls me the next day and we actually do the interview. Crazy, right? Anyways, enough story. I'd like to now highlight some moments during my chat with Lance. For context, going into the interview, I had like 16 questions I was ready to ask him, but something I picked up on pretty quickly was that I wasn't going to be able to use all of them. As a matter of fact, I think I walked out of the interview only using like half. I learned that trying to go off of a script during an interview just isn't sustainable. You want to be prepared for the conversation to go in ways you weren't expecting it to, leaving space for unexpected questions to pop up, just so that it feels more conversational and less like you're just robotically checking off boxes. So, when starting an interview off, I never liked the question, "Who are you and what do you do?" I much prefer asking this. When people search your name up online, right, they're told you're a producer, a cinematographer, a director, and while all of that may objectively be true, I want to know, in your words, who is Lance Bangs?
Lance Bangs is an American artist and filmmaker, and he's traveled extensively making portraits and documentary and news coverage of interesting subcultural figures and movements and communities.
I think I was expecting a more philosophical answer. But next, I asked him an improvised question, which he answered very thoroughly. Where'd your love for filmmaking come from?
I began making films as an adolescent. Was in a military family that was moving quite a bit and was spending time in like empty parking lots and gas station bathrooms and 24-hour laundromats shooting personal films and using a tape recorder to record what I was seeing and experiencing. At the time, Michael Stipe of the band REM was giving grants and funding to underground filmmakers and making public service announcements. He saw some of the work that I was doing and helped get me down to Athens, Georgia, which was like a kind of a cultural outpost where there were musicians and poets and people that were kind of living a kind of outsider existence in the Deep South. A painter and experimental filmmaker named Jim Herbert and a poet and artist named Jeremy Ayers kind of took me under their wing. And other bands that would kind of come through Athens, Georgia at that time, like Nirvana, Sonic Youth, Pavement, My Bloody Valentine, would meet with them, and then they would ask me to either shoot documentary footage of their tours and bands or direct music videos or make visuals to project behind them when they would play live. And then that eventually led to Sonic Youth connecting me with Spike Jones, who was making music videos at the time in the mid-1990s. Spike brought me out to Los Angeles to start working on projects with him out there.
He went on to tell me about his time building up Viceland, working on projects for the New York Times, and about his time at the University of Georgia, where he graduated with a degree in journalism. He tells me he spent his time there primarily for one reason.
I took classes in the journalism school at the University of Georgia, primarily as a way of having access to equipment for making personal films and music projects.
Even though this was the question I asked him, he spent 5 minutes going down memory lane, listing projects he's been part of. After I ask him a clarifying question, he does much the same for the next 5 minutes, telling me about his time covering the Obama administration, the Occupy Wall Street movement, etc. Knowing him from Jackass, I cooked up the next question on the spot. You mentioned covering Occupy and the Obama administration, and you must have been working on Jackass 3D at the time.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 2021, Forever is being filmed, and you're covering the Trump administration and all that. So do you ever think about that tonal shift between comedy and like the real world, and the fact that you covered both? And
yeah, from early on, I have just loved exploring and talking to people and being alive and finding visual ways and audio ways to tell stories and highlight interesting characters and subjects and movements and sociological concepts or groups of people. And so doing that and using the resources or equipment from one thing to then go help people that didn't have access to lighting or whatever to make their basement show be able to be documented or audio recorded or whatever has been something that from the very beginning was exciting and liberating and felt like it gave meaning and purpose to my life. And so I've continued to follow that practice. And also if I'm just going and doing like a thing like Loiter Squad, but we're filming in Florida, and I'm aware that organizers from New York have come down to Florida to try and get a version of Occupy going there, like I'll go meet with those people at night and do political work while we are otherwise during the day like in a swamp with alligators for a Jackass or Loiter Squad shoot.
after getting a solid idea of who he was and his work, I asked him to choose between two loves. In my research about your work, I had picked up two major themes: the fact that you got an immense love for music and an immense love for comedy. If you had to choose one to keep covering for the rest of your life, which one are you choosing?
I find more satisfaction with music. It has deeper levels. It's more interesting to visualize. The things with comedy have been great socially. It's a lot of people who are, some level of narcissism and attention seeking, and
of course, yeah,
that can be fun in short doses. But like the deeper sides of someone that is finding creative expression through music is usually more where my deeper sympathies lie.
And then I hit him with this follow-up. What's the proudest project you've been a part of in the realm of like musical collaborations? where he proceeds to tell me about his 2014 documentary, Breadcrumb Trail, though he doesn't outright say the title.
There's a really wonderful group of young people that were based in Louisville, Kentucky that formed the band Slint. When they were like kids, really, they started making their own very distinct and very original forms of music and expression and ways of thinking about the world. I made a documentary film that kind of grew out of my fixation or obsession with those people.
So here's where doing your research before the interview was important, because without my research, I would not have been able to deliver this follow-up.
We're like a month away from that project turning 10 years old. It's been 10 years since that one came out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so anything new you learned about the band or the members that in these past 10 years that you wish could have made it into the film? Like any juicy bits of information, or are you like completely satisfied with how it turned out?
It's crazy how many things have come up. Like, I don't understand. We really thought we'd spent, since 1991 tracking down every story. And then inadvertently, people that I've spent hundreds of hours with will let slip some other insane detail that should have been in the movie. One example is that there's a song on the record, Don, a man, and it describes this sort of mind state of a fragile, lonely young person who is looking at themselves in the mirror, and they're at a party that they don't belong at, and they go outside, and and it's this kind of like tender psychological thing. And then very recently, like in the past year, Britt casually says, like, oh yeah, I was, and you're imagining his influences are going to be classical composers and noise projects of Chicago from 1987, like the Jesus Lizard or, things of that era. But instead he says, like, what was a huge influence on him is Madonna. And like Madonna at that time, like, doesn't seem like something that would have been like a cultural influence on this like very distinct form of music on a tiny, small pressing of a thing. And then he says, yeah, like Donna Man is an anagram of Madonna.
After this, I switched gears of the conversation and started asking him questions about his work on comedy specials. He's directed 16 specials since 2010, so I asked him something basic that ended up teaching me a lot.
How exactly do you direct a comedy special, and how different was it directing one for Eric Andre with his unique brand?
Yeah, I would say that generally there are comedy specials that get made where the director is not an important element of how the comedy special gets made. Like, the truth is that in many of them, the choice of the shirt or top that the performer is wearing is like the main thing you're seeing on screen. What I tend to do is get brought in by people that are going for something that's more creatively ambitious with that format.
Yeah.
Whether they want to kind of like deconstruct or fuck around with what a comedy special can be. I'll go meet with them. I'll spend time with them socially, ideally where they live, and then also go on the road to a city where they are testing out or practicing material. In those situations, you can be like, what if we move this thing to be your closer and see how that goes for the energy? Or what if you do a callback by referencing this early on and then like bringing it back up again near the end?
He even gave me some really interesting insight on how his method of directing may be influenced by the streaming service he's doing the project for.
At different times, outlets will encourage sort of conceptual segments or openings or skits or things to happen before and after the on-stage material. And then in other eras, a place like Netflix might decide like, no more minute-long sketches where the comedian's opening act and friends are like getting FaceTime. Like, let's skip all that and just start with you on stage at the microphone telling a joke. Like, people are going to just jump to another thing if you take 2 minutes to get to the like stand-up material. And then other times it's like, no, we want you to make your HBO special have an opening and a cinematic resolution at the end, and we want to see a montage of family photos of your dad or whatever. So at different times, those aesthetics can be different, and also like where it's going to go can be different. If it's something that's for Peacock or Hulu or Comedy Central or Netflix or Showtime or HBO, has kind of like different visual language or things that work for those audiences.
You want to maintain your composure with these interviews, right? I came very close to losing my composure when he said this.
In the case of the Eric Andre show that you were at,
He mentioned me. He said that right before telling me about the process of assembling a camera crew for a comedy special with a whole lot of this.
so I had particular people hand-holding cameras that you wouldn't normally shoot a comedy special on.
Yeah.
In the photo pit, who were prepared and ready to get liquids thrown on them and potentially hit by exploding objects or
yes,
vomit or pepper spray or whatever things that could be going on. That they were kind of like game for that and prepared, and had been like broken in by doing a few other cities. Like I took those operators to DC and Philadelphia before we taped in New York to kind of get them past their normal like flinching instincts or gag instincts, so that they could hang and like get my approval by not stepping away or panning away to protect themselves when things got out of control.
Yeah.
And that worked. And so those operators ended up doing a great job not missing anything and getting the moment and staying with it and not like flinching or retreating or getting shell shock or tapping out.
Then I threw Lance a question about his methods of video editing. As the sole editor of the past 21 minutes, I was curious to hear about video editing in the industry.
Eric, Mike, and myself were kind of endlessly watching cuts and refining things and making suggestions and pulling shots from DC or Philadelphia to kind of put in to make things even better. I shot additional footage alone in Seattle and Portland.
And some of your Portland footage made it into the special, you said?
Yeah, when he starts off stage and you see a moment of him kind of psychologically transitioning from Eric Andre, the like sensitive guy, to like hitting himself in the head with like a red plastic bat a few times and then like turning into the maniac talk show host that's going to run up a short flight of stairs and dive into a desk. Like that starts in Portland, Oregon, and then the desk that he crashes into is in Philadelphia, and then New York City seamlessly, just from like the combination of angles and shots of each like minor split second of that sequence.
And finally, of course, because I am a major fan of Jackass and an aspiring jackass myself.
Nice. Oh, your hand's on fire.
Ghost Pepper Carolina.
I had to ask him a couple questions about his time on the set. The context for my first question can be given through this clip from Jackass 3.5.
We're 24/7 when we're shooting. All of us are always attacking each other. I may be attacking everyone a little more.
What the fuck was that?
To the point about like the set being a war zone, are you off limits? Are you and like Rick Cossack, are you guys like can't touch them because they're camera operators, or are you like as victimized as they are?
I think it's more entertaining, like the reaction you're going to get from Ryan Dunn or Preston Lacey or Wee Man is funnier than the reaction you're going to get from me, I think, So, and I think also Knoxville, I'm one of the few people that he will come let know what a prank or bit is going to be so that I can get the shot. So
right. I
think of myself as like not the main target of things that they're doing most of the time, but they do enjoy fucking with me, or I'm not like off limits as far as like a clipper cam or like a exploding boxing glove to the face or whatever.
Right. Oh,
but then you don't get the shot if I'm like if I'm the only one in the room with a camera, it's hard to get the shot.
After that, I had only one more question to ask Lance, and this question. I had spent countless sleepless nights pondering the answer to this question since the year 2021, and during this interview, I finally got my answer. So, for my final question of the interview, I present to you my golden question.
You've had some great golden moments. Paper cuts in the first movie. You passed out. Butt chug in number 2. Then you couldn't stop laughing. That's something they left in. That's something that I think about when I think about the bit. But there's been this moment ever since I saw this forever in theaters. I saw it 4 times. But ever since I saw it, I've been wondering this question, and I've been hoping to settle the score on this. So it's the pogo. It's the cup test. Aaron McGehee just got his testicle bruised by Dave England on a pogo stick.
Teasing, he's teasing.
it cuts to you for like a solid 20 seconds, falling to your knees and dry heaving in a face mask because you guys were shooting during COVID. So I gotta know, was it? And forgive me if this is an unusual question, but was it just dry heaving in that mask, or did you full on? Did something come out?
I full on vomited, and I don't think it's clear to the viewer, but like it scraped off a layer of skin of his scrotum, and the testicle was visible through the ruptured opening.
No.
Like we couldn't keep an R rating and show my angle of that, but what I'm looking at and zooming in on is like a torn open scrotum with a testicle visible, and we couldn't show it, so he had to get in an ambulance and go to get checked out, and all this stuff. And I was the only one that stayed there close to that and was getting the shot. But also, there's an odor that is inside of Aaron McGee's scrotum that was coming out because the skin had been abrased off or whatever.
Really?
So if you can imagine how bad someone's balls smell from the outside, and it's Aaron McGee, and whatever scent is inside is now coming out, that's what I was smelling and zooming in on, and that's what put me over the edge.
Yeah.
I really don't think that I have like a easy gag reflex. Like I'm not, like everyone else throws up quicker than I do, but they're running away to throw up and I'm staying to film it, and then Knoxville will turn the camera around on me. And so I think it's not an accurate description that I like in this like easy to puke guy. I think it is like...
Right. And then after that, he kind of just abruptly ended the interview. It was a little awkward, but I'll let you hear it.
Thank you for putting that to rest. I can finally sleep easy now knowing what actually happened in that mask and what exactly caused you to hunk.
Right on. I do have to jump off to go pick up my daughter for a school thing.
Oh, sure. I was going to ask a little bit more, but that's absolutely fine. It's a great question to end off on. Mr. Lance Bangs, wait, what the fuck? This guy. I suppose that concludes the interview, folks. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes people gotta go pick up their daughter for a medical appointment, like he said. Yeah. I'm not quite sure how to end this audio recording, but that was cool. That was cool. I gotta listen back to how that ended. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm finally done with this stupid project. I can live now.